What's up, man, and welcome back to the Strength from Above podcast. As you know, this is the podcast where we talk about life. And if you know me, I never hold back when it comes to life. Life can be hard, life can be difficult, life can be a pain, life can be a struggle, life can be weird, life can get difficult. Let's just leave it at that, all right? You guys know I always run down what life can be, but life can also be a success if you want it to be. All right, it's just a matter of what you want to do, fam. It's a matter of what you want to do. So, mm, how has life been for you? Life has been great so far for me. Life has been awesome. It's been busy. I've been trying to record. You guys know me, man. I'm handling a lot of things. This podcast is just to have a space where we can be clear, where we could be ourselves, and you guys can listen to things that you guys relate to. I hope I'm helping somebody. I hope somebody's listening and is like, I relate to what this guy is talking about. I relate to Arvin in a lot of ways, and I'm just gonna keep listening. And if that's you, then I'm just gonna keep on going. All right, I'm not trying to be viral. I'm not trying to get rich off of this stuff. This isn't a it's just I'm trying to help out. All right, and if you listening to me blab about life is helping you out, then I'm gonna keep on going. Listen, life has been busy. Um, it's been busy with my job. Um, those of you that know me, I do projects. I run projects with the Washington Commanders, along with a great team. Um, I love my company, but right now it's been a love and hate relationship with them because of how busy they've had me. I want to get back to this podcast. I want to get back to talking about life. I want to get back to talking about stuff that we go through. All right, and today's topic is let's just go ahead and dive into it. Today's topic is, are you replaceable? Are you replaceable? I want you guys to ask yourself that question. Are you replaceable? Have you ever felt, whatever you're going through life, whatever whether it's in church, whether it's in family gatherings, whether it's in a friendship, a relationship, have you ever like just felt like you've been replaced? Have you ever felt like you've gone through so much in life that you're just like, man, I everybody's replaceable? You know that saying, everybody is replaceable. You're replaceable at work, you're replaceable at church, you're replaceable anywhere, right? There is um there is that saying, you are replaceable anywhere, so don't think that you hold value everywhere you go. Listen, fam, I feel like that statement you guys know me, I practically go against almost everything. Like I don't like to go with the crowd. And the fact, my whole life I've been that way. I don't like to go with the crowd. When I was a kid, everybody liked certain things. Everybody liked this, everybody liked Jordans. Everybody liked brands. I still like wearing my graphic tees. If you're watching the video, you can see that I'm 34 years old and I'm still wearing my graphic tees. Um, I got I got Gohan on there. Forgot which graphic tee I was wearing today. Anyways, I've always been different, fam, and it's okay to be different. I'd rather be different than get trapped in something that may lead me somewhere I don't want to be. Everybody that had all these brand shoes like Jordans, Nikes, and all that stuff. I was still wearing my Batman shoes from Payless because, well, one, we was poor, and two, and two, I'd rather wear those than wear a friggin' swoosh on the side of my shoe. It was just the way that I was, man. I was just different. I was different, man, and that caused me to think different. So you guys know I'm always going up against everything. So I'm it shouldn't come to a surprise that I'm going up against that saying, you're replaceable everywhere. And I'll tell you this, it's true to a certain extent. All right, you are replaceable. everywhere you go. It's true to a certain extent, but you are replaceable if you let yourself become replaceable. Now, I hope that through the end of this podcast, you can understand what I am trying to say here. All right, and I'm gonna break it down. You guys know that I'm not just gonna say something and just leave it like that. I'm gonna break it down because a lot of us need a lot of details. So, truth is, you are in the lives of many people replaceable. But what leads you to become replaceable? What leads you to fade away from a place or a community that you've invested so much time in? Now, you guys already know I'm going to bring up the church. And a lot of people, like with the last podcast, I got a lot of feedback with the last podcast, guys. Um, Good feedback, not no, I'm surprised I'm not getting more, attacks on it, but that's a good thing. I mean, hey, if a lot of you are relating to it, cool. A lot of people told me, yo, man, I feel like you're attacking the church a lot, but it's very like true what you're saying. And yes, it is very true. I will call out the church, and a lot of people are saying that I'm very tough on the church, and I have to be tough on the church. I have to be tough on the church because the church is the place where people go to develop new hope. They're supposed to go to Jesus. You're supposed to connect them to Jesus, but they're going to you for hope first. Now, is it the wrong thing to do? But no, but this is what we've been kind of, but this is what we've like been taught to do. Go to church. Go to church, you'll feel better. And the reason we say go to church, you'll feel better is because the people there are supposed to lead you to Jesus. The people there are supposed to make that connection with you to Jesus, supposed to guide you into getting into that connection with Jesus. But we've connected people to the business and the vision that we have for the church to grow. So we talked a lot about this on the last episode. So I want to say what leads you. I want you to understand that whatever environment you step into can destroy you, can destroy us. Let's say that. I want you to understand that the environment we step into can destroy us, and it can also become something that we cause a strong enough impact where we connect, where we will never be forgotten. Okay, you have that. There is something in you that God has planted that you can step into any environment and never be forgotten. It's up to you and how you step into that environment, how you're remembered, or if you just fade away. Now, you can sit here and say, I don't want to be remembered in any environment. I just want to do what I got to do. Well, why do you think you're the way you are now? Why you think you haven't achieved anything? Why do you think you haven't accomplished something? Like, why do you think that you see that there is no worth in you? There's a lot of things that you have to figure out. But I want to start with this. Figure out the environment you're stepping into, whether it's church, whether it's work, or family and friends gathering. Whatever it may be, figure out the environment that you're stepping into first. That is the first thing we need to do. Where are you right now? Where are you in life? Have you accomplished what you wanted? Have you gotten to where you want to be? I know I haven't. And I'm 34 years old. I'm pretty successful. I feel like I'm definitely nowhere near I was 4 years ago. Okay. Now, year 33, that was my Jesus year. I call that my Jesus year because it was a big breakthrough. I stepped down from ministry and I started doing things that served my family. I started putting my family first. I started putting myself first. I quit pouring into people that always left me empty. I'm going to say it like this. I quit pouring into people's cup that left my cup empty. And I started focusing on pouring into my family because they leave my cup full. I started pouring into myself. I started pouring into my communication with God because he leaves my cup full. And overflowing for me to pour into my family. And eventually, once again, start pouring into people. I took a break, fam. It's fine. It's okay. But at the same time, you have no idea how God has still allowed me to pour into people. I'm doing it right now. All right, I'm doing it right now through this podcast. It may not be I may not see the crowd, but I know there's a crowd. I know somebody's watching. I know somebody's listening. And that, my friends, is important. Figure out the environment you're stepping into, whether it's church, whether it's work, whether it's family, or a friend's gathering. Figure that environment out. Is it going to contaminate you with what they have going on, or are you going to make an impact in the life of someone in that environment, in that circle? Now, what leads us to feel replaceable is, in fact, stepping into the wrong environment. All right, stepping into the false community, a false sense of community. Church friends versus real friends. I've talked about this before. There's an episode called Church Friends versus Real Friends. Go take a listen. But I'll tell you a little bit of that. This church friend versus real friends isn't just in church, it's also work. It's also, it's also like volunteer work. Well, church is volunteer work, but there is a such thing. Not everybody in that church is your friend. Not everybody in that workplace is your friend. Not everybody is going to want to know the the secrets you have, or the stuff that you're going through. Not everybody's going to want you to open up. Not everybody's going to want you to be vulnerable. And now, why I hit the church so much is because church should be the space where you can be vulnerable. Church should be the space where you could be transparent. You could be vulnerable and you can say, hey, I'm going through this and I need help. You know, a worship leader, a worship pastor should be able to say, hey, I'm not feeling it today. I'm not feeling it today. And I want to step down at least for today and just get myself right so I can do this again next week. But the problem here is that the program has to go on. The show has to go on. Listen to the show has to go on. The performance needs to happen. No matter how you're feeling, the performance needs to happen. And that is where we make a mistake, because this can cause us to feel replaceable. It'd be like, well, if you're not feeling it, then I'll just get somebody else to fill in the void. Or if you're not feeling it, do it anyways. And then I'll get somebody else to fill in your spot next week, because right now the show must go on. Fam, this is a mistake that we're making in churches all the time. When you step into a church, what they offer is a false sense of community. Not just church, friends, work, and family too. Now, listen, the Bible always tells us to be watchful and alert. And I forgot my Bible today. So let's do this. I'll check on my handy dandy iPad, which I got open right now. I got a verse for you. I got Bible for this. Just give me a second. So Corinthians 16, verse 14. So let's check that out. Corinthians 16. First of Corinthians 16, verse 13 and 14. It says, be on your guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong, do everything in love. Now, be on your guard, stand firm in the faith, be courageous, be strong, do everything in love. Now, what are we talking about here? The Bible constantly tells us to be alert. The Bible constantly tells us to be courageous, be strong, be alert. Watch every environment that you step in. Every single environment that you step in. Every single platform that you step in. Every single circle that you step in. Be alert. Identify what is there. Identify the good. Identify the bad. Identify what is created to cause you pain. And identify what is created to push you into joy, into peace, into growth. Identify everything, because not everything is good. Remember, The enemy is always at work. The enemy, we need to be alert because the enemy is sneaky and it will not use what we mostly love to push us. It will use what we mostly look. Let me rewind on that. The enemy is sneaky, so we must stay alert. The enemy is sneaky, so we must be courageous to make decisions that we don't want to make. The enemy is sneaky because it will use what you mostly love to tear you down. You think you out here thinking that the devil's gonna come up in an attack where it's just like it's just an inconvenience. Fam, most of us are complaining about inconveniences. But we don't see when the enemy is using our own mother against us, our own father against us, our own boyfriend, our own girlfriend, our own wife, our own husband, our own friends against us. We don't see that. We just like, oh, my life is so horrible right now. No, the enemy is using exactly what he knows to use to bring you down, to tear you down. And you need to identify these problems with love. Be patient. Be patient. Sometimes you need to make decisions where you need to cut some stuff off for a moment. Sometimes you need to make decisions where you need to set boundaries on things that you don't want to set boundaries on because you want it to keep coming in your life, but at the same time, it's tearing you down. And for some reason, you can't get past where you are. It's a never ending cycle. And the enemy is sneaky with it because he uses the people that will mostly break your heart. Now, fam, I know you know what I'm saying. So we need to be alert at all times. So when you step into church looking for hope, be alert. When you step up to the leader trying to be vulnerable and you're not seeing that they're connecting with you, be alert. That's not the leader you should be talking to. When you're telling a leader that you're hurting, when you're telling a leader when you're telling a church member, a pastor, a church leader, whoever it is that you're trying to talk to, and you're trying to get a glimpse of hope, but all they're telling you is to keep fighting, my brother. Keep fighting, my sister. Keep fighting. Keep praying. We'll be praying for you. Be alert. That's not the leader you need to be talking to. You need to be talking to somebody that is going to sit there and listen to understand your problem, not listen to reply with an answer. Sometimes you might not get an answer. And sometimes that's what God wants to do. Sometimes that's what God wants you to understand. You're not going to get an answer right now because you're not going to understand the answer that I have for you. So I'm not going to give you an answer through this leader. I need you to get closer to me. Everything that you go through is always, the answer will always be get closer to God. Wait and be patient as he's cooking. Fam, this is what this is about. Sometimes we want this answer like right now. We want the answer right now. And this is why we end up feeling like, man, like nobody understands what I'm going through. Nobody knows, nobody wants to understand what I'm going through. Nobody wants to but the answer is always going to be in the good book. The answer is always going to be God, what do you, it's going to be in your communication with God. God, I'm going through this right now. And honestly, I am going to hand everything over to you because I can't do this anymore. Everybody that I'm talking to is telling me the same thing. Everybody that I'm talking to is telling me to pray my answers away and my pain away. Everybody is telling me to pray my pain away. Everybody is telling me to pray this away, pray that away, pray pray the heartbreak away. My girlfriend left me and now I'm heartbroken and everybody's telling me keep on fighting, pray it all away. No, what you're going to do is end up trying to fill a void, and the void, that the only person that can fill that void is God, and you're going to search it in another human, and you're going to end up in another toxic relationship. You're going to end up in a relationship that's going to break your heart twice as bad. Fam, I'm trying to give you cheat codes here. Cheat codes to life. This isn't something to play with. The reason you're feeling replaceable in every single person's life is because you haven't had the connection with God to walk into any environment and make an impact in which you are never forgotten. I may have left, my position as a youth pastor, but I guarantee it, I haven't been replaced. They may have somebody else up in there, but they ain't replace me. I know that much. And this isn't me being cocky or anything. I just know. I know what I get, what I bring to the table. And every single one of us needs to understand that that's not being cocky. That's not being um, that's not unhumbling myself. You just know who you are. You know what God called you for. So in every single environment, in every single circle, I'll tell you this, identify your Judas. Do you guys remember how Judas was? You guys remember that Judas attended every single meeting that Jesus was in? Do you guys remember that Judas served at every single event that Jesus was in? At every single prayer meeting, every single time that he was giving messages out, every single time that he was preaching, Judas was there. He had the best teacher. And you know who knew what Judas was up to? Jesus. And Jesus still served him. Jesus still washed his feet. Jesus still gave him to eat. And Jesus still put him in position to his team. He was the treasurer. Remember that. Judas handled the money. Now, why would Jesus put so much trust in somebody that he knew was going to betray him to get executed? Because Jesus understood that that's what Judas stood for. And Jesus understood that Judas wasn't going to change. In every single environment that you step into, I need you to identify your Judas. Because your Judas is going to be Judas no matter what you do. No matter if you confront him, he's still going to be Judas. He's still going to lie to you. He's still going to betray you. Still going to stab you in the back. You confront him. You humiliate him. You expose him. They're going to do the same thing that they were prepared to do. And you have to do what you were created to do. And what is that? Love on them. Aren't we supposed to take Jesus' examples? So then take it. Be the reflection of who you have to be the reflection of. Be the reflection of Jesus. Identify your Judas and love your Judas. Give thanks for your Judas. Give thanks to God for your Judas. Switch what was meant to destroy you into something that will push you into growth. How is a Judas going to push you into growth if he's going to betray me? Because you knew what he did, and even still, you knew what he was going to do, and even still, you stood right by him and loved him. And when the betrayal came around, you understood that that's what was going to happen anyways. You knew about it already. So, set the boundary and move on. Identify your Judas in every single environment. A false sense of community can make you feel replaceable. You will find a Judas in a church. You will find many Judases in a church. You will find a Judas at work. Many Judases at work. You will find many Judases in friends. Family. Let's talk about family. How can family make you feel replaceable? Now, I want you to sit there and think for a little bit. Just listen to what I got to say. Family has this thing where it sticks to traditions. Traditions created by culture. And sometimes those traditions they make no sense, but you follow them because you want to honor the memory of the tradition. You want to honor the memory of how your mother was brought up, how your father was brought up, how your granddaddy was brought up, your grandmother. You just want to follow these traditions because you don't want to feel like you're disrespecting them. But at the same time, this is what I mean. Identify what is right and what is wrong. There are questions in your heart on why somebody told you to keep a secret. There are questions in your heart on why that uncle told you to keep a secret, why that why your father told you to keep a secret, why your mom told you to keep a secret. There are questions. And sometimes you have to make this decision to ask those questions. Sometimes you have to make these decisions to question yourself about it. Like, why should I keep a secret about this? Why is this a secret? Because if it comes out and it hurts like most of your family members, it shouldn't have been a secret. I'll tell you this, a life full of secrets is not a life that God intended for you to have. And this is what keeps you in the same cycle, repeating it over and over and over again. Now, I'm getting to this. I don't know how I ended up to this, but I'm getting to how you feel replaceable. Sometimes our families do the most dumbest things and start sticking to culture and start sticking to what others are doing, by comparing themselves to others. Look at so and so's son. Look at your uncle's daughter. She's doing this. And you're out here. Look at your uncle's daughter. She's out here studying to be a doctor and you want to be an art student. Like, come on, that's not going to get you any money. That's not going to get you anywhere. And why don't you follow her example? And you're afraid to explain that you want nothing to do with being a doctor or being a lawyer. You want everything to do with being an artist. You have a creative mind, and that's your thing. But you can't explain that because they're comparing you to somebody else, and now you feel replaced. Now you feel like somebody else is better. Well, the way that you can end that is when you come to your children, when your children tell you that they want to do something, you support them fully. Because you don't know what God has called your child to be. You are forcing a career path to your child that you're forcing a career path of being a lawyer to your child when God probably called them to be a doctor, when God probably called them to be a construction worker, when God probably called them to be somewhere else because they need to impact in a certain area. But because somebody else is doing something that you feel is successful, you push it on your children. You have now managed to make your child feel replaceable. Oh, he'd rather have her as a child because she's doing this. My dad rather have him as a child because he's an athlete. And I'm a book nerd. I'm a comic book nerd. I'm trying to make it in streaming. I'm trying to make it by doing a podcast. I'm trying to make it by, somewhere else. And he doesn't want me to do that. The catch-up game in families, catching up with everybody else, can lead you to a path going downhill. Now I ask you again, have you ever felt replaceable? Have you ever felt replaceable in church? Have you ever felt replaceable in family? Or have you been replaced in church? Have you been replaced in family? Have you been replaced as a friend? If you've answered yes to all of this, this is what I got to tell you today. I'm going to end pretty soon. I like to keep my podcast episodes short. So, if you answered yes to being replaceable to all these things, I'll also tell you yes, you can be replaceable in all these things. I had a good friend of mine, Pastor Claudia. She told me something before, when Glenda and I were recently married. She told me something. She said, one thing I want you guys to remember and never forget. The enemy is going to try to destroy what you guys are going to build as of right now. You guys have no idea what God has called you to do. And the enemy is going to try to destroy it. And he's going to try to destroy it before you even figure out what it is that you're going to do. But one important thing that I want you to remember, anything that you do here at church, anybody here can do it. Anybody can replace you. Where you cannot be replaced is at home. There is no other husband. There is no other wife. There will be no other father. And there will be no other mother. Remember that. And you'll be one step ahead. And I got to admit, man, I got, mostly me, I got real busy with ministry. I got real busy with serving at church. I put all nighters at church to prepare for an event that everybody probably forgot about. I've put on up. I've I've poured into cups that I poured into people that whatever I say goes into one ear and then the other, and they're gonna do the whatever they want to do in the first place. Like they have to figure it out. They have to figure it out. I know what you're telling me is good, Arvin, but I want to see for myself. Boom, hit that forehead right in the wall, didn't you? And now, why didn't you stop me? I've dealt with conversations like these over and over and over again, and I forgot that word that was given to me. Whatever you do at church, anyone can replace you in. However, whatever you do at home, no one can take your spot. No one can take your spot as a husband. No one can take your spot as a wife. No one can take your spot as a daughter, as a son. No one can take your spot at home. Only if you let it happen. And ministry leaders, young people right now, the young people that are recently married, that are planning to start a family, don't be afraid to say no. Your your family comes first. Never be afraid to say no. Anybody can replace you at church. Everybody can replace you at that organization. However, at home, no one can replace daddy. No one can replace mommy. No one can replace son or daughter, husband or wife. Keep that in mind in any organization that you join, that you decide to serve in. Fam, I hate to say it. I hate to bring this up, but church is an organization. The false sense of community that they offer nowadays is come, let us walk with you. And that's great. It's great to hear. Yeah, I would really love somebody to walk with me. But once you start getting to that vulnerable confession, it becomes difficult to walk with you because now it takes work to walk with you. Now it takes, hey man, how are you doing? Hey man, how you feeling? Everybody has busy lives. The organization is full of volunteers. A few people get paid to do what you do at church. You don't. You have a day job. And to be a leader and to stay on top of everybody while having a day job, while having kids at home, while having a wife at home, while being a family man, which is your first ministry, becomes difficult. And it is okay to say, you know what? I'm going to take a break of pouring into people that can't pour back into me. And I'm going to take time to pour into myself so I can pour into my family. How do you pour into yourself? Read the Bible, read God's word, get in contact with God, communicate with God, worship, praise, be thankful for every single day, and watch how you start growing, how your cup gets full and overflowing so you can pour into your family first and then continue to pour into others. That is how you pour into yourself. That is how you become unreplaceable. Nobody at my job can do what I do. Nobody at whatever church I decide to serve will do what I do. God has called me, God has called you to do something that nobody else can do. So if you think that you're replaceable, fam, I got something to tell you. You're not. Everybody that says you are replaceable everywhere, Fam, God called you to do one specific calling that he hasn't called 7 point whatever billion other people in this planet to do. He's called you to do that one purpose. He's called you to speak to that one person at the bar. He's called you to speak to that one person at the coffee shop. He's called you to speak to that one person at your workplace that is going through so much with his family that relates to what you are going through. He's called that person that feels alone just for you to simply say, hey, you're not alone. I went through the same thing. Let me show you what I did to get better. It's all about growth, fam. You're not replaceable. You have been called to do something, and God has called you to do it. And if you're not in this planet, who's going to do it? If you don't step up and do it, who's going to do it? Fam, if you feel like you are replaceable, I'm here to tell you today, God's called you to do it. You're not replaceable. You may be replaceable in other lives, in other people's lives, in other organizations, in other communities. But to God, there's a reason why you're here. But hey, what do I know? I'm just an imperfect human trying to stay close to a perfect God. This is the Strength from Above podcast, and I'll see you next time.